What's going on, social media? What's going on? I wanted to give everybody a chance to come in the room real quick, man. Go ahead and check out this live broadcast and rebroadcast. I just wanted to chime in, man, because I just saw the video that is literally going around the world with Odell Beckham being escorted off the uh, airplane. And I got some thoughts about this, man. I got some thoughts. So real quick, if you could, whether you're watching live broadcast or rebroadcast, go ahead and share this broadcast because it could be something in this broadcast that can not only be beneficial for you to hear, but also beneficial to those that are in your inner circle. So go ahead and take a moment to share it now. Also, I do want to continue to reinforce the fact that a lot of these current event broadcasts that I'm doing right now will go against the current idea of thought. Okay, therefore making it an unpopular opinion, though it's not a religious opinion per se. It's still my thoughts nonetheless, and so it should be taken as just that, an unpopular opinion. Um, Upon looking at this video, at first glance, I know right now people are giving Odell Beckham a lot of heat, talking about how, he's so arrogant. He's very unprofessional. He should not have acted the way he did on the plane. How dare he do what he did? And for those of you that do not know what I'm aware of, I'll give you a brief summary. Odell Beckham was flying first class. Of course, we're talking about he's a free agent now, but he was a wide receiver for the New York Giants. Very good one. Also played for the LA Rams. And so he has grown to great notoriety because of his football ability. And so he was in first class. And as a result of him being in first class, there comes with certain perks, right? And so he was, according to the report, unconscious. What appeared in the video, it looks like he was sleeping, and they, in fact, tried to wake him up to put on his seatbelt so they could take off. And apparently, some of the flight attendants had, a little issue doing that. And so as a result, they called the fire rescue, and it just became this huge thing now where they can't seem to take off because they don't feel comfortable with Odell in his quote unquote current state being able to fly because they, I guess, assume that he would be a danger to himself or the others on the plane, whatever the case may be. When you look at the video, uh, it starts by the fire marshals coming in, and they're in fact looking at Odell, evaluating his situation. Odell looks startled. He's trying to figure out what's going on. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look and see that Odell's probably, because he's in first class, but he looks like possibly the youngest person there. Didn't see too many black people in the video in first class, but that's neither here nor there. Uh, he's clearly the oddball in this whole situation, which is really what I want to highlight to you because that is ultimately going to affect the reason why he responded the way he responded. But I'll continue to give the summary. So, as a result of Odell being told to put on his seatbelt um, by the fire rescue, it appears that he complies, and everybody that was on the fire team was like, "Okay, that's it, cool. Like, that's all you needed." And they proceed to leave because they're like, this man is fine. They're saying they don't see an issue, they don't see anything wrong with him. But then you got the stewardess on the plane griping about how apparently he was, and this is what gets me in the video. They make it seem as if he was in his underwear, which we don't know because the video doesn't show that. But then there's also a part in the video where the guy goes on record saying he was either in his shorts or his underwear. Okay, so now it's becoming very semantical at this point. And the reason why, again, I'm bringing the facts to light is for one, to inform the viewers that don't know what we're talking about, as well as to just make this whole situation plain, man. Okay, and so now they gave Odell two options because they didn't feel comfortable flying with him. They said, Odell, this is what we can do. you can get off this flight right now so we can go ahead and get to our destination, or you could in fact uh, not get off, resulting in the whole entire plane deboarding, and you'll still have to get off, but we'll all just have to deboard with you. And so, upon looking at the video again, from a fan's perspective, for a person who just believes that all these rich people are arrogant and all they want to do is create problems in the world, and they're just so entitled and all this other stuff, we can sit here and think, man, Odell was really tripping. He should have just got off the plane. Man, he ruined them people day. Just all types of negative responses we can look at, if we're just wanting to be super critical or analytical of Odell. But I really want to take the opposite direction and kind of say, man, like, has anybody really evaluated this situation from Odell's perspective? Because it's easy for us on the outside looking in saying what Odell should have done. But if you've never been in the type of rooms that Odell has been in, or in situations like that, right? Then you can't really speak to what you would have done in that moment. You see, what I see when I look at that video is a young brother who's tired for whatever reason. If whether he went out there to Miami and partied, or he was out there on some business trip, or whatever, he's tired. Okay. And some of us are stronger sleepers than others. So again, some people, they may try to wake you, and I mean, I've been in that situation before where people have tried to wake me, and I've been knocked out, and it took a little minute for them to bring me back to consciousness. So that's neither here nor there. That can happen to anyone. Some people are stronger sleepers than others. Okay. And again, for the sake of the video and context, we don't see the level or the magnitude of which these other stewardess had to go through in order to get Odell awake and compliant with what was going on. Now, it's amazing because during this whole process, Odell does not appear to be becoming belligerent until towards, like, the end. And I'll address my thoughts on that too. But he seems to be coherent when they're talking to him in the video. He's answering their questions, and when it came to the officer, especially, wasn't raising his voice at the officer. All right, and he kind of came off to me as a young brother who's very intelligent. He may not be the most intelligent guy in the room, right? But he has some sense of understanding, some sense of he seemed to be articulate too in the video. And I'm not just saying that to stroke his ego. I'm not saying that because I'm a quote unquote Odell Beckham fan. I don't necessarily ascribe to be an Odell Beckham fan, right? I'm not an enemy of him either. But again, what I saw in that video was just, again, a young brother who now is put in a situation where he's already the oddball in this, from the jump. You're a famous, high-profile football player, black, in first class with a bunch of old, Caucasian people. And here it is, after for whatever reason, again, you was out there in Miami, and you got tired and everything. As a result of being tired, you got the fire marshal, you got all these people on the plane trying to get you to go ahead and buckle up. And again, like I said, when he woke up, he seemed kind of startled. So, went ahead, put the seatbelt on. But now, as a result of you complying, they're saying it's too late. It's too late now for you to comply. You will, in fact, have to get off the plane so we can all go, because we don't feel comfortable with you in the air. So, again, on a surface level, I would have a problem with that. Okay. And I'm not famous, but I look at it like this. If I paid the money to be in first class, just like everybody else has, and for whatever reason I decided, or not even decided, for whatever reason, I'm tired, and I didn't, I was unaware of, the flight taking off or what have you, then at that point, when I do regain consciousness and I do comply with what you're telling me to do, we should not have any issues. We shouldn't have any issues to take off. We shouldn't have any issues to continue with business as usual, because I did nothing outside of, I was unresponsive maybe to your initial comments just because, hey, I've been in meetings before personally. Just this is me now talking. I've been in meetings where, you know, you can't control sometimes what your body does, for whatever reason. I've been in long drawn out meetings where I had to close my eyes for a minute. I had to fall asleep for a minute because it was, for whatever reason, the teaching style was dull, or my mental ability at that point was just, I was tired. All right. And so, again, not making excuses for everything that Odell Beckham did on the plane, but I do want people to understand that when it comes to Odell Beckham, man, deciding not to get off, okay, or just leave so everyone else can leave. I am not on the same side of people that saying, well, he just should have got off, because again, that's easy to say in hindsight. But when you're in a position where, again, you're the oddball already in this situation, and you got everybody who it seems like, you know, because some people just want to make an example out of you. Let's just be honest. Some folks, they see you, they think, especially when you're a successful brother out here in America, that you're too high and mighty, and you need to be broken. But if I'm complying with what you said, then that should be the end of that. And again, I know some people can listen to this broadcast and think, "Oh man, Will, he should have just did it for the sake of the other passengers and all this other stuff." And I just find it so ironic, because some of you folks are saying that, and some of you may even fall on the other end of the spectrum. Not that I love all people, again, but I just find it so funny because some of y'all saying that, no, good and well, if you was put in that situation, everybody probably would have had to get off the plane too, because you would have felt entitled. You would have felt like, hey man, it's your right to be on this plane. You didn't do nothing wrong. And again, I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'm not trying to be, again, racist. However, it has become apparent to me. It's been made very plain to me, very plain here in America, that there is a sense of entitlement. Okay, a high sense of entitlement that it goes against it varies in every culture, people that have this mindset of entitlement, right? But I've noticed it a lot more amongst our white brothers and sisters. They feel entitled, even if they're not the owners of something. They feel entitled to tell you what to do and how to do it, when to do it, and all that other stuff. And I'm just saying that, you know at the end of the day, we all are Americans. And whether you have, if you don't have a position of authority over somebody, it's not really your place to speak to that person in a derogatory manner, which goes to another point that happened on the incident with the plane. You got these folks now in first class just saying, hey man, just get off the plane. Just get off the plane. And so, again, evaluating it from a fan perspective, oh man, this messed up, man. You holding up these people day. I'm pretty sure Odell had places to be too. Okay. I'm pretty sure he did. And I'm pretty sure that just like they may have earned the right to be there, who knows? Some of them probably had an inheritance passed down, or they may have been flying on the business credit card. It could have been all, but whatever the case may be, Odell earned the right to be in first class. Dude, the only reason why he ain't even on an NFL roster right now is because he was injured. And so now people kind of looking at him somewhat like a unfortunately, like damaged goods. It's like, hey man, you're not at full force here. But the fact of the matter is, the man earned the right to be in first class. So to tell me to get off after I did nothing wrong, and again, coming from Odell's perspective, hypothetically speaking, if he was just tired and he wasn't like drunk or just super high as a kite, which again, we can't say that he was, based off the video, because the video does not necessarily prove that the brother was drunk or that he was high. People can say, well, it seemed to me like he was. It seemed, bro, we all, first of all, people have different responses when it comes to them, being intoxicated or being high. Everyone doesn't respond the quote unquote same. But again, when you are coherent, when you can put together sentences without slurring your sentences, and you're able to articulate trains of thought like Odell was to them officers, on the plane, and then here it is, they check your blood pressure, and after they check your blood pressure, they don't raise any red flags about you being too intoxicated or too under the influence. They don't raise any red flags about all that. Then what's the problem? What is the problem? It amazes me because again, I work in the public spectrum, so for people to sit here or on these broadcasts and to sit here and drag this man like Odell just did something completely out the way, completely against what some of us may have done in a situation like that, I believe is completely hypocritical, because you and I both know some of you guys have turned up for stuff that was much less than what Odell had to go through. Because you got to think about it. We talking about a black man in a room full of white folks, and just go and give you 1,000. That was a public embarrassment, man. You calling the fire marshal, you calling all these people to quote unquote, you know, get me to put on a seatbelt, and it's like, bruh. And I'm waking up. And again, I'm not even defending Odell just because he's quote unquote black. I believe whether you're right, it's about being right and wrong, and I think honestly, after looking at this video, it's several people that's wrong in this. I believe Odell definitely had some wrong that he did in here, which I'll get to in a moment. But I believe these stewardess and American Airlines as a whole definitely handled this situation wrong, and I believe that the people that was on, based off of the video, based off the knowledge that we have, I believe that those stewardess should be reprimanded, because see, it ain't your place to be sitting here acting like, if I put my seatbelt on, what issue do we have? All this fakeness about, we were worried about you and this and that. Look, man, if I'm in my right mind, if I have complied with the orders after regaining consciousness, that needs to be the end of that. We need to be flying. Well, what are we doing? Like, what is all this? Because see, at the end of the day, it's about people wanting to control a narrative. And that is something that they do not want to address in the eyes of the media. They don't want to address that as a problem in America, because we've all been in rooms like that. Okay, especially those of us that have gone into rooms where we may have been the only person of color in there or what have you. And again, people try to say, why does everything have to be about race? Well, it's essential to who we are. And whether we like it or not, this country has a very dark past, a very dark negative history. And as a result of that, there are certain things we're still dealing with in present day. No, it's not just black people are upset and black people can't get over this, can't get over that. No, it's certain things that you got to understand, systemically, that we all have to go through, that we all deal with. And until we fix the system that's at play, we ain't gonna get nowhere. But we ain't gonna continue to fix the system by denying a problem. You see, it's funny how, again, when it comes to race, we want to turn the blind eye, but we can't do that. We can't do that. And sit here and also talk about how abortion's wrong and all these other things. Like, yeah, I ain't going for that as a Christian. And I love all people. I love specifically, whites, Latinas. I those are my brothers. Those are my sisters. And that will be the case until, even when I meet Jesus. That's going to be what it's going to be. But if I'm on a flight like that and I'm in a situation like Odell Beckham was, I'll just be honest with you, people. It's going to be, it's going to be somewhat of a problem for you off first, off first glance, just to get me off the quote unquote plane, especially when I feel like, hey man, I'm being targeted in this moment. Like and then again, I'm looking at the comments. See, people can try to flex and try to say all this because I know I'm gonna have some Christians listening to this, like, oh well, no, he was just this and that. People looking into it too deep. But when you got folks calling this brother a thug and all this other stuff online, talking about how, oh well, he just one of them football thugs. He gonna be out of money and broke in 3 years, just like the rest of them. He bragging about flying on a private jet, and now So when you doing all that nonsense, and then in the same breath want to say we looking too deep into the situation. We know what's going on. We know what's up, which is why I got to give my candid thoughts, my candid, unpopular thoughts about this topic, because we got to speak truth to power, man. At the time of this recording, for one, there's so much stuff going on, right? So much stuff going on in the world, but we're literally a few days away from Dr. King Day, which, by the way, MLK, just to bring some facts to power, you got prominent white evangelical preachers that fought against, as much as us that want to sit here and glorify MLK today and try to use him as a post, in our social medias and stuff like that. You had white evangelical, well-known, prominent preachers that went against this man in the public spectrum. Some of these people are related to denominations that you're still a part of today. If I started saying some names, some of you would even know. But they went against this man. They didn't want him to have no holiday. They said, oh, well, there's so much stuff about Dr. King we don't know about, as if, bro, it's a whole lot of stuff that y'all are doing we don't know about. But again, we respect you. We give you your flowers. And again, thankfully, MLK, he got his day. He's getting his just due. But I'm just saying all of this to emphasize a point. The point is, whether we like it or not, Black men especially have a tendency in America to be looked at as problematic, to be looked at as second class citizens. And it's not this situation where we're all walking around with our heads down saying, woe is me, woe is me. But it's like, bro, like we know when you're trying to target us. We know when you're trying to make an example out of us. And so in a situation like this, based off of the evidence we have, based off the video we have, I can't sit here and just say, "Oh yeah, Odell was just some thug on a plane who didn't want to get off." Nah, I look at that and say, "Man, you got a successful brother right there who sat here and worked his tail off, and now he's being put in a situation where, it appears that he's being targeted based off of, I don't know, maybe it's because they know who he is, or they just don't like the fact that he didn't obey their commands in immediate fashion." First of all, there is a certain thing when it comes to being in customer service, right? What's the saying that comes to mind? It's this. I'm sure y'all know it, but I'm gonna just go ahead and tell you what it is. A saying that comes to mind when you're dealing with customer service is this: the customer is always right. The customer is always right. So that means if I'm in a situation as a servant, which is what those flight attendants were. They were servants. They weren't that man's. They weren't, quote unquote police officers or anything like that. Why they did have they could tell him to put on his seatbelt or whatever. They were servants. They were there to serve. They weren't, you know they were there to serve. But there are plenty of times, plenty of cases when you're dealing with customer service, right? Where if you have that unruly member that unruly customer. Your job as a waitress or as a server is to de-escalate the situation. Your job is to provide a solution for that person in that situation. I'll give you a prime example. I work in the financial industry, right? There are certain things that, we have policies in the financial sector. And so when it comes to money and stuff like that, and how it moves, there's a certain procedure we have to abide by. But again, and it's funny because I had this situation happen today where a gentleman that came in, he had an account with us, and he wanted to move over some money. And it took a little time, took a little bit of time for us to, process that in our system. But because he came in and because he was a member, he felt as if he was above, the process, right? And as a result of him feeling that way, we took his relationship, we took his consideration in regards to, how he felt about the situation, into thought. We took all that into thought, and he was able to provide us contact information for where the funds were coming from to verify, the funds, so we can go ahead and make it available to him a little bit more speedily. And again, he came in. He was somewhat, had somewhat of an attitude or whatever. And again, just for what it's worth, talking about a white gentleman here, talking about a white gentleman. And again, love all people, but I think it's important to point that out because it's easy for you to come on here, especially if you're a person that's of the opposite spectrum of me, the opposite train of thought, opposite ethnic background, etc., and try to disregard my opinion or disregard my thoughts on this matter. But everything I'm saying, I'm able to back up with facts. I'm able to have a point of reference. Okay, so it's not a matter of, oh man, Tobias just talking. I know what some of y'all would do if y'all was in Odell's shoes. I know what some of you would do. Point blank, period. You would have stayed on the plane too. Everybody would have had to get off. Just like what Odell said. Hey man, look, it's cool. I'll leave, but everybody gonna leave. You ain't just gonna sit here and single me out for doing nothing wrong outside of being temporarily, uh, um, you know, temporarily incoherent to what you were saying. But again, that's neither here nor there. Anyway, going back to what I was just stating, it is so imperative for us to understand in this final hour of time that people are going to be people. All right. And so going back to my initial thoughts when it comes to unpopular opinions, I wouldn't necessarily say these are quote unquote heaven and hell issues or whatever. I think the train of thought for us as Christians, we should pray for all parties involved. But specifically with this situation, we got to give Odell some grace here, man. I think Odell was probably going through a lot for whatever reason, and yeah, like they just they escalated the situation. And the thing that gets me about this whole thing is you got the fire marshal, you got people that are coming to quote unquote de-escalate the situation that are looking at this and they're saying there's nothing wrong with this guy. It doesn't, it doesn't appear that there's anything wrong with, oh well, he was doing this earlier, he was doing that. And it's like, okay, well, what was he doing? Oh, he was asleep. He was asleep. We couldn't wake him. He was asleep. Okay, well, he's awake. He didn't put the seatbelt on. The seatbelt's on. So what's the problem? And then just to show the hypocrisy of this, if we're gonna sit here and just be all the way 100, if it was just about putting the seatbelt on, okay, look, Odell puts the seatbelt on. We take off. All right. I've flown before, so I know how it goes. After you get to a certain altitude, the seatbelt can come off. The seatbelt could come off, y'all. So this ain't just about a seatbelt thing, man. It's about usurping a position of power. You wanting to kind of like show off more than what you really, you want to basically show some form of dominance here. Because once he put that seatbelt on, that should have been the end of that. But the fact of the matter is that they felt like, oh no, well he's incompetent. We don't feel safe flying. We don't feel so now you're gonna sit here and try to make me out to be the quote unquote enemy. It's just crazy. It's crazy to me, man. It's absolutely crazy, absolutely senile to sit here and criticize me as someone who is successful. And again, I'm saying this from the perspective or the thought ideologies of Mr. Beckham, because I know if I had worked hard to be in that room, to be able to have a first class ticket, and just be treated as scum, to be treated as second class, to be told just get off the plane, knowing that the person who telling me that wouldn't just get off the quote unquote plane. I mean, yeah, no, I'm not. That's just not gonna be a good thing. Now, of course, hindsight is 2020, and this is where the especially when you think about a Christian perspective and all of that, for the sake of peace and for the sake of everyone involved, could we say it would have been better for Odell just to get off the plane? Probably, probably we can say that. However, the thing about it is that in moments like that, just being real with you, just being honest, just being very blunt, uh, it's not always black and white. It's not always written what should be done. And for folks to sit here and be going low, because I heard one brother on one of his podcasts talk about, oh man, some of the people they ain't as rich as you, Odell. They spent their last and trying to make it seem like, we just talking about some podunk folks here. Bruh, this is first class, man. Everybody in this situation is in first class. Now, given you got some other people that was in coach, that was, they were flying coach or whatever on that same flight because it was a commercial flight. But the thing about it is, within 40 minutes, they was able to reboard. Not saying that it wasn't an inconvenience to them, but I'm pretty sure it was also an inconvenience to Odell, especially now that you got the media wanting to sit here and criticize this young brother for pretty much standing his ground and saying, hey, man, I have a right just like you have a right. And if you're going to treat me like this after, not doing anything wrong, not being belligerent or anything like that, because it would have been different if you were sitting here cussing these folks out, throwing stuff and doing all that. But the brother was asleep. He was asleep on a first class flight, which, by the way, they build. Because he was like in a little tube or something like that. They build them things with your comfort in mind. So, essentially, they want you to feel comfortable. They want you to be able to kind of spread your legs out and go to sleep if you want to go to sleep. They want you to do all that. And here it is. Now you got this brother in this situation, and now he's being what perceives to be unfairly targeted because he didn't respond at the time that they wanted him to respond. Look, man, we got to get off these little power trips, okay? Just because you are who you are, the world doesn't owe you anything, and that goes for Odell too. Because I can't end this broadcast without, again, giving my points of criticism to him. I think in his anger and his rage, well, I wouldn't even say rage, that's the wrong word. In his anger and frustration with what happened, he begins to talk to another passenger. And the passenger is an older man, an older white man, who probably gave him some crap, for not getting off the plane. The white gentleman gave Odell some. And Odell gave it back. And it was very, he called him derogatory names and, all this other stuff. But he was also like, hey, man, you can look at me all you want to. Like, and that's where I would say, sir, you could have done without doing that. You didn't have to go that route. But I also am empathetic to just the thought, man, just the train of thought. Here it is. I've worked my entire life to get to where where I can be successful, where I don't have to deal with nonsense, and yet I'm finding myself in a position where I'm still having to do that. knowing that I paid for my ticket just like you paid for yours, knowing that I have somewhere to be just like you got somewhere to be. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. But again, um, I think that was wrong. I think that was wrong of Odell. I don't think he should have cussed that man out. I think he could have dealt. He could have handled that a completely different way. It didn't have to go down like that. Um, but and then to brag about getting on first class, not first class, flying out on a private jet. People were bringing up the question, well, why didn't you um, fly private to begin with? It's so funny to me, man. People are so. I mean, it's so funny. Like we'll criticize people 1 minute, famous people, regardless if they're athletes or whatever. We'll criticize them for living this quote unquote lavish life, right? For flying private and all these other things. And then at the same moment, we'll sit here and when things don't go our way, we'll say, well, why didn't you do that? Who knows? He may have been trying to save some money. It could have just been one of those things. Whatever the case may be, we have to be able not to see what people are saying about a situation and just say, "Oh yeah, this is what it is." Because right now, it definitely appears that the media is trying to make him out to be some type of villain, some type of crook, for not just being so eager or so willfully willing to get off a plane. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that. Just based off of my current train of thought, I would not have been so quick to jump off the plane either, because just based off of the video that I saw, it looked like the brother was being somewhat targeted, or if at worst embarrassed, and you want to sit here and make a public example out of me when, again, I was asleep. This is not about this ain't about nothing else. People they tried to put all this stuff, oh, he was in his underwear. Well, we don't know if he was in his underwear. But then the same guy that said he was in his underwear, he's saying, or it may have been his shorts. It could have been his underwear or his shorts. The guy who is over the plane is saying, no, he wasn't being belligerent. He wasn't acting senile. He was just unresponsive. He was, meaning he was he was passed out. He was asleep. You got all these people saying this stuff to pretty much not even necessarily trying to cover him. They're just saying, "Hey, man, this is what it is." But again, because you got a few people that feel like they owe something, they want to strut around and pretty much usurp their authority. And yeah, yeah, that just pretty much seems to be what it is, man. Just based off of this. Now, who knows? This current event broadcast is fresh, and maybe a few days later, we'll find out some more information. However, based off of what we know, and that's another thing. Um, maybe because I don't know what the laws are specifically in regards to these flights, especially commercial flights, having like cameras and stuff like that on them. But whatever the case may be, if Odell was acting irrationally throughout this entire process, if he was like parading around in his underwear, like they were saying, all that stuff happened before they got there. Which again, the fire rescue was looking like the dude had on his pants. What are you talking about? He wasn't, like they were kind of looking like, yo, like man, everything's fine. Like this dude, you know, they was ready to leave. They was ready to leave. But the stewardess again, they were just acting, you know, like they were in disarray. Anyway, um, yeah, if we had some footage that would prove that, then I could definitely be a little bit more sympathetic. I could be a little bit more understanding of the stewardess perspective. However, knowing how people are, being in the customer service field as well, knowing how some people let their job go to their head, I'm not going to be so quick to just give them a pass. I'm going to look at this thing and clearly say, like I've been saying from the jump, you got several people in the wrong in this situation. And it's not just Odell. Well, he's famous. He should have did this. He should have did that. No, some of the people didn't know who he was. At the end of the day, him being famous, see, we can't just usurp that when it fits our narrative. It has to be a equal playing field, equal measurement of justice in order for it to work. Because if him being famous was an issue for him to be in first class, he should not have been allowed to be even on first class because he was quote unquote famous. And I get this whole idea of being the bigger person and all that. Yeah, there's an element to that. But if we're going to be completely honest, we may not have even been talking about this story right now if if we didn't, in fact, if Odell didn't stand his ground. And I just, again, I don't think this is a huge issue. The only reason why it's even relevant is because we're talking about someone who's in the fame, who's a celebrity. But outside of that, outside of how he handled the man, that the gentleman that he got into the argument with, um, I thought he did not completely go overboard. He really didn't. And of course, people are gonna criticize him, and because he's in the public specter too, they're gonna say what he should have did, what he could have did. But again, understanding people's humanity, it is what it is. Like, he had a moment. He probably regrets flying on that flight to begin with now. But just based off of the what I saw, I think, again, you got some people in this situation that are wrong, just as wrong, if not more wrong, than Odell is. And so, again, I just want to encourage us to continue to pray for him, pray for everybody involved, and for folks to sit here again and say, well, he should have thought about all the other people. You need to ask yourself the question: if you was in that situation, knowing how you are, do you honestly think you would have done the same thing? Do you honestly think you would have been so adamant to get off the plane? I'm almost certain you probably wouldn't. So before you criticize this young brother for standing his ground, put yourself in his shoes, put yourself in his scenario, and say, man, you know what? Especially when you feel like, man, I didn't do nothing wrong. I just woke up. I just woke up, and now I'm trying to comply with your orders. And you telling me I gotta get kicked off the plane. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. So again, and again, just to give you an idea, because see, Odell isn't the first person this happened to. I remember some years back, T.I. was trying to get in his home. And the guy asked him at the gate, because video came out about that. He asked him, what's his name? He said Harris, Clifford Harris. Okay, who you here to see? And then he told me, he's like, look, man, I live here. I'm trying to get into my residence. And I guess the guy at the gate, the guard, had a tough time understanding him, maybe because of the language barrier. He may have been Haitian or something like that. He calls the address that Harris provides. T.I. provides his home address. And his wife says, yeah, that's my husband. Let him in. Told him that several times. But the guy didn't want to let him in. And so again, feeling disrespected, feeling like, there was some issue there, he holds up T.I. from getting into his home, and it results in the law being called out. It results in we got video footage of police officers who's clearly biased. They're sitting here talking about, oh, he thinks he's hot stuff because he's this rapper and this and that. All of that has no bearing on the fact that I paid to be in my home. Therefore, I should have access to the home I paid for. And I've told you my name. After complying with your request, it should not be no issues for me to get into what's mine. But again, we find ourselves in these situations, unfortunately, as people of color in America, where we, for whatever reason, have to deal with so much crap just to just to enjoy our stuff, enjoy what we are entitled to enjoy. People want to use that word entitlement a lot, and it's cool when other people walk in that entitlement, other ethnicities walk in that entitlement. But once again, for some of us, when the brothers do it, it seems to be highlighted in a more negative persona, negative perspective. Because going back to the old traditional outlook, brothers are seen as more violent, more confrontational, more thuggish, more hoodish, and so therefore we need to shut them quote unquote down. Whereas we should honestly just be looking at them as American citizens who want to exercise their rights, just like you would exercise your rights if you were put in that same position. Listen, I could continue to go on about this topic, but again, I want to conclude by encouraging you to, connect with me on social media, continue to, get some of the positive content that I have out here. I do, like I said, these unpopular opinion, these current event broadcasts, but I'm also wanting to speak life, hope, and inspiration to your current situation. So I hope that you would connect with me to do that. Also, share this broadcast with other people. And until next time, man, just continue to stay positive, man. There's so much negativity in the world, so many bad things going on. We all just need to continue to lift each other up, man. Lift each other up in prayer, continue to move forward in that grace and understand that at the end of the day, man, we all are in need of saving, man. And so that's just is what it is. I've enjoyed this moment with you. And yeah, just keep your head up, keep moving forward. I'll talk to you soon.